Hello there, my fellow seeker of peace and clarity. Have you ever met someone who seems to sap your energy just by being near? Maybe their charm feels a bit too perfect, or you've caught them bending the truth for their own gain. It's unsettling, isn't it? The thing is, this kind of subtle malice doesn't show up with bright warning signs. It hides, slipping into your life under the guise of friendliness, advice, or even love. But don't worry, you're not alone, and you don't need to harden your heart to protect yourself. Ancient Stoic philosophers like Marcus Aurelius and Seneca faced similar challenges and left us a treasure trove of wisdom to navigate life's trickiest relationships. Their teachings, as timeless today as they were 2,000 years ago, will guide us as we uncover 10 signs of a malicious person through the lens of Stoic philosophy. Each of these signs, manipulation, lies, envy, and more, won't just help you spot toxic behavior. They'll empower you with tools to respond gracefully, courageously, and with self-mastery. Stoicism isn't about retreating from the world. It's about facing it wisely and remaining anchored even when storms rage. Now, before we dive into this eye-opening topic, let me share something personal with you. According to our latest data, 93% of you watching right now haven't subscribed to the channel. Honestly, it makes me wonder, am I not connecting with you enough? Is it the content, the tone, or even the background music that could be better? If so, I need your help. Drop a 1 in the comments if there's anything I can improve. I promise to listen and work on it. This community thrives on your feedback and our shared commitment to growth. But if you enjoy what we're building here and just haven't gotten around to it yet, I humbly ask you to subscribe and like this video. It's free, and it's the most powerful way to support this channel and help it grow. Finally, a quick thank you for your patience. Many of you have noticed that my most profound insights often come mid-video. So here's my promise: 2 inspiring videos daily to keep you engaged and growing. Let's dive in and master our minds together, because that, my friend, is the ultimate act of freedom. 1. Constant manipulation. A subtle attack on your confidence. Manipulation is one of the most insidious tactics malicious individuals use. It doesn't come with loud accusations or obvious lies. Instead, it's like a slow, creeping fog, clouding your clarity and making you question your reality. Think about it. Have you ever felt like someone you trusted was somehow pulling strings behind the scenes, controlling how you perceive yourself? If so, you're not alone. Let me share a story. I once had a colleague who was incredibly charming at first. They praised my work publicly, made me feel seen, valued, even indispensable. But slowly, I started noticing cracks in the facade. Subtle remarks during private conversations planted seeds of doubt in my mind. "Are you sure this is the best way to do it?" they'd ask, in a tone that seemed helpful on the surface. Yet, over time, I realized these questions weren't aimed at improving my work. They were designed to make me dependent on their approval. It hit me hard when a project I'd poured my heart into was suddenly picked apart in a meeting, with my colleague steering the conversation. Instead of lifting me up, they inflated minor mistakes and framed themselves as the problem solver, eroding my confidence and making me feel like I couldn't succeed without them. It was manipulation at its finest, quiet, calculated, and completely draining. The ancient Stoics, particularly Epictetus, had wisdom for moments like these. He said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." Manipulation thrives when we hand over control of our thoughts to others. It preys on our uncertainties and convinces us that someone else holds the key to our worth. But here's the truth: no one does. The Stoic approach teaches us to reclaim our mental autonomy by practicing clarity and self-awareness. So how do you spot manipulation? Pay attention to patterns. Does someone consistently make you feel inadequate while presenting themselves as your solution? Do they ask questions or make comments that leave you doubting yourself? These are red flags. And the best way to protect yourself isn't to confront manipulators head-on. Arguing often feeds their tactics. Instead, step back, detach from their narrative, and remind yourself of your intrinsic value. When I finally recognized the manipulation in my situation, I stopped seeking validation from that colleague. I began relying on my own judgment and the feedback of trusted allies. And you know what? It was liberating. I realized I didn't need their approval, and the fog lifted. To anyone feeling stuck in the web of someone else's control, You are capable. You are worthy. And the moment you stop playing their game, you reclaim your power. The freedom to think, act, and grow belongs to you. And as Epictetus reminds us, that is the ultimate strength. 2. The mask of charm. Charm is a beautiful thing when genuine. It connects people, fosters trust, and builds meaningful relationships. But when charm becomes a weapon in the hands of someone malicious, it's a whole different story. It stops being a bridge and transforms into a tool of manipulation, masking selfish motives behind a dazzling facade. Have you ever met someone who seemed almost too perfect? Their smiles, compliments, and warm gestures seemed tailor-made to disarm you, to make you feel special. But deep down, something didn't sit right. I've been there. I had a friend who could charm their way into any circle. They had this uncanny ability to make you feel like the most important person in the room. Compliments would flow effortlessly. You're so talented. I don't know how you do it. For a while, I believed every word, basking in the glow of their praise. But over time, patterns began to emerge. Their support came with strings attached. Whenever I achieved something meaningful, there would be a subtle remark. That's amazing, but you know, it's not quite as groundbreaking as what so-and-so did. At first, I dismissed these comments as harmless, maybe even helpful. But then I noticed they were consistent. Not to encourage me, but to chip away at my confidence, to make me question the worth of my accomplishments. It was their charm that had lured me in, but behind that charm lay a calculated effort to maintain control, ensuring I never felt truly secure or independent. The Stoics had deep wisdom about this kind of behavior. Epictetus warned us to judge others not by their words, but by their actions, as actions reveal a person's true character. Marcus Aurelius put it simply, the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. A person consumed by selfishness and deceit may mask it temporarily, but their true nature inevitably surfaces. Charm, when used as a facade, is hollow. It lacks the substance of genuine kindness or virtue. So how do we protect ourselves? Pay close attention to consistency. Does this charming individual treat everyone with respect, or only those who benefit them? How do they act when no one is watching? A true friend will lift you up without seeking anything in return, but a manipulative charmer will eventually reveal their ulterior motives. When I finally realized the truth about my friend, I decided to stop letting their words define my worth. I focused instead on those who genuinely supported me, people who celebrated my success without diminishing it. That shift was empowering. It reminded me that genuine relationships are built on honesty, not glittering illusions. To anyone dealing with someone whose charm feels like a perfectly rehearsed script, trust your instincts. If your gut tells you something's off, listen. Stoicism teaches us that truth doesn't need embellishment. Authentic kindness shines naturally, without pretense. Step away from the facade and seek the truth beneath. You deserve relationships where you can grow, not ones that keep you questioning your worth. And remember, your light doesn't need anyone's validation to shine. 3. Lies without conscience. There's something deeply unsettling about lies, especially when they come from someone you trust. We're all human and make mistakes, but malicious individuals lie not out of carelessness or fear, but because deceit is second nature to them. Their lies aren't innocent slips. They're meticulously crafted, often aimed at controlling the narrative, shifting blame, or elevating themselves at your expense. Have you ever been in a situation where the truth felt slippery, where you found yourself doubting your memory or reality? If so, you're not alone. Let me tell you about an experience I had. I once worked with someone who seemed confident and reliable, a real go-getter. They often shared elaborate stories of their achievements, tales that painted them as the hero in every situation. At first, I was inspired, even a little in awe, but things began to unravel when we worked together on a major project. This person started taking credit for ideas that weren't theirs, subtly erasing my contributions in meetings, and even rewriting the project's narrative to center themselves as the sole driving force behind its success. When I gathered evidence and gently confronted them, they responded not with humility, but with more lies. "You misunderstood me," they said, or "You must have forgotten how it happened." Their calm demeanor made me question myself. Was I overreacting? Was my memory flawed? That's the power of a seasoned liar. They make you doubt what you know to be true. Marcus Aurelius once advised, "Nothing should be done if it isn't right, and nothing should be said if it isn't true." The Stoics valued truth as the cornerstone of integrity and strength. Lies, on the other hand, are fragile. They require constant maintenance, layer upon layer of deceit to sustain the illusion. This is why lies inevitably unravel, while truth stands unshaken. How can you protect yourself from such individuals? First, pay attention to inconsistencies. Do their stories change depending on the audience? Do their actions align with their words? A Stoic approach encourages us to observe actions over words because actions reveal a person's true character. If you sense dishonesty, don't be afraid to ask questions or seek clarity. You're not being difficult. You're protecting your reality. When I stepped back from that toxic relationship, I began to see the pattern more clearly. Their web of lies was exhausting not just for me, but for them too. And here's what I learned. You don't have to fix a liar or even expose them. Instead, focus on holding on to your truth. Set boundaries, limit your interactions, and surround yourself with people who value honesty and accountability. To anyone feeling the weight of someone else's lies, trust yourself. Stoicism reminds us that integrity is a personal responsibility. Stay true to your values, and don't let someone else's deceit cloud your judgment. Remember, the truth doesn't need to shout to be heard. It simply stands firm, and so should you. 4. Lack of empathy. Empathy is the glue that holds meaningful relationships together. It's what allows us to connect, to share in the joys and sorrows of others, and to feel truly seen. But for some people, those who operate with malicious intent, empathy is glaringly absent. Their world revolves around their own needs and desires, with little regard for the feelings or struggles of those around them. Have you ever opened your heart to someone, only to feel dismissed or even ridiculed? If so, you've likely encountered this chilling absence of empathy. I once had a close friend, or at least I thought they were close. One evening, after a particularly rough day, I confided in them about a personal struggle that had been weighing on me. Instead of offering comfort, they quickly shifted the conversation. "Oh, you think that's bad? Let me tell you about my day," they said, completely brushing off my vulnerability. At first, I chalked it up to a bad moment, but it became a pattern. Every time I tried to share something meaningful, my words were met with indifference or deflection. Over time, I realized they weren't interested in my happiness or pain unless it served their agenda. Seneca, one of the great Stoic philosophers, wrote that humans are social creatures, not meant to live solely for themselves. Empathy is the bridge that connects us, the cornerstone of relationships that uplift and sustain us. Without it, interactions become transactional, one-sided, and deeply draining. A lack of empathy isn't just a character flaw. It's a window into a hollow soul. How do you recognize this behavior? It often starts subtly. They might minimize your experiences, interrupt you to talk about themselves, or even find pleasure in your misfortune. Their detachment becomes clearer over time as they consistently fail to step outside their own interests to truly see you. They might feign compassion when it suits their needs, but their apathy will always slip through the cracks. When I finally acknowledged the lack of empathy in my friendship, I knew I needed to set boundaries. It wasn't easy. I wanted to believe they cared. But Stoicism reminded me that no more arguing about what a good man should be one. Marcus Aurelius. I couldn't control their behavior, but I could choose relationships that were built on mutual respect and understanding. And so can you. If you're dealing with someone like this, take a step back. Ask yourself, are they lifting you up or dragging you down? True friends don't dismiss your struggles. They stand with you through them. Protect your peace by surrounding yourself with people who genuinely care, who share in your joy and sorrow without ulterior motives. Stoicism teaches us that the quality of our relationships shapes the quality of our lives. Empathy isn't a luxury, it's a necessity. Seek connections that nourish your soul and don't settle for less, because you deserve relationships rooted in kindness, understanding, and mutual respect. 5. The hunger for control. Control, when exercised maliciously, is one of the most suffocating forms of manipulation. For some individuals, control isn't just a habit, it's their lifeline. They thrive on dominating others, not just by dictating their actions, but by infiltrating their thoughts, emotions, and even the smallest decisions. Have you ever felt like someone was steering your life? Not with overt commands, but with subtle nudges that made you second-guess yourself? That's how the hunger for control operates, quietly, insidiously, and often disguised as help. I experienced this firsthand with someone I trusted. At first, their advice seemed thoughtful, even empowering. They'd say things like, "I just want the best for you," or "Let me help you avoid mistakes." I took comfort in their guidance, believing it came from a place of genuine care. But over time, I noticed a pattern. Their help often came at the expense of my confidence. When I considered joining an important project, they said, "Are you sure you're ready for that? It might be too much for you." Those words planted doubt in my mind, and instead of feeling encouraged, I felt dependent on their approval to move forward. Epictetus once said, "Freedom is the only worthy goal in life, and freedom comes from refusing to be controlled by what lies beyond our influence." Malicious individuals understand this. They know that controlling your mind is the key to controlling your entire life. And they use guilt, shame, or sweet words to keep you within their grasp. Their goal isn't to help you grow, it's to ensure you never outgrow them. How can you spot this behavior? Pay attention to how their influence makes you feel. Do their words empower you to make your own decisions, or do they create dependence? Do they respect your boundaries, or do they subtly dismiss them? Control doesn't always come with a raised voice. It often whispers in the form of advice that erodes your trust in yourself. When I recognized what was happening, I knew I had to reclaim my autonomy. It wasn't easy. I had become accustomed to their input and feared making mistakes without it. But Stoicism reminded me of Marcus Aurelius's wisdom. Your mind is under your control, not external circumstances. I started asking myself, does this align with my values? Does this decision reflect who I am? And with each step, I became more confident in my ability to lead my own life. If you're feeling trapped by someone else's need for control, know this: your freedom is yours to claim. You don't have to confront them with anger or arguments. Instead, quietly but firmly step away from their influence. Trust yourself to make decisions, even imperfect ones. Growth comes from owning your choices, not from outsourcing them to others. Stoicism teaches us that autonomy is our greatest power. True relationships, be they friendships, partnerships, or mentorships, never demand control. Instead, they empower you to grow, to make your own decisions, and to embrace your independence. Protect that autonomy because it's the foundation of your strength and the key to your freedom. Number 6. Blame games and deflection. One of the most frustrating traits of a malicious individual is their mastery of blame games. They are experts at sidestepping accountability, weaving narratives that place the fault squarely on someone else's shoulders, often yours. It's never their mistake, it's the circumstances, other people, or even your misunderstanding. If you've ever walked away from a conversation feeling like you've been unjustly blamed, you're not imagining it. These individuals are skilled at shifting the spotlight away from their shortcomings and onto others. I remember working on an important project with someone I thought was reliable. When things started going wrong, I assumed we'd figure out the issues together. But instead of acknowledging their oversights, they shifted the narrative. "I think this happened because of your organizational system," they said in a tone that seemed constructive. At first, I felt a pang of guilt. Was I the one at fault? But as the pattern continued, I noticed how they consistently avoided owning their mistakes, redirecting blame every single time. It wasn't just frustrating, it was exhausting. Seneca, the Stoic philosopher, observed that truth stands firm without justification, while lies require elaborate stories to sustain them. This is precisely what blame shifters rely on. The complexity of their stories clouds your judgment and erodes your confidence. They manipulate your trust and empathy, making you feel guilty for their failures while they walk away unscathed. How can you protect yourself from this tactic? First, stay grounded in the facts. When someone tries to shift blame onto you, pause and reflect. Ask yourself, does their version of events align with the truth? Did you genuinely have control over the situation, or are they projecting their shortcomings onto you? Keeping an objective perspective is key to resisting their emotional manipulation. When I finally recognized the pattern with my colleague, I decided to confront the behavior, not with accusations, but with clarity. "I hear what you're saying, but I think we need to look at all the factors involved," I said calmly. Bringing the focus back to the facts and shared accountability made it harder for them to dodge responsibility. I also learned to set boundaries, refusing to accept blame for things beyond my control. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Don't let someone else's deflection shape your perception of yourself. Stay rooted in your truth, and don't be afraid to stand up for it, even when it feels uncomfortable. If you find yourself repeatedly bearing the weight of someone else's blame, it's time to step back and protect your peace. True strength lies in accountability, both yours and theirs. Surround yourself with people who own their actions and foster a sense of mutual respect. And when someone refuses to take responsibility, let their behavior speak for itself. You are not their scapegoat, and you never have to carry their burden. Stay true to yourself and the integrity that defines you. The pleasure of pain. One of the most disturbing traits of a truly malicious person is their capacity to take pleasure in others' pain. It's not always obvious. It doesn't necessarily come with dramatic laughter or overt cruelty. Often it manifests in subtle actions, a smirk when someone fails, a sarcastic comment when you're struggling, or even thinly veiled delight in the misfortunes of others. If you've ever noticed someone finding joy where there should be empathy, you've glimpsed this chilling behavior. Let me share a story. I once had a coworker who seemed kind and supportive on the surface, but over time, I noticed something unsettling. Whenever someone stumbled, a mistake in a presentation, a reprimand from management, they would quietly revel in it. I remember one particular day when a teammate was scolded publicly for a minor oversight. While the rest of us felt sympathy, this coworker chuckled under their breath, masking it as casual indifference. At first I ignored it, thinking I'd misread their reaction, but the pattern became undeniable. Their quiet delight in others' struggles wasn't an accident, it was a reflection of their need to feel superior. Seneca, the great Stoic thinker, once wrote, "No man is more unhappy than one who never faces adversity." For malicious individuals, adversity is not a lesson, it's a tool. They elevate themselves not through effort or merit, but by standing on the shoulders of those they tear down. Their satisfaction is fleeting, a hollow attempt to mask their own insecurities. But for those on the receiving end of their behavior, the impact can be deeply unsettling. How can you recognize this toxic pleasure? Watch for subtle cues. Do they offer support when someone is struggling, or do they make offhand comments that deepen the wound? Do they quietly spread gossip, framing it as concern, or do they use someone's failure as an opportunity to boost their own ego? Their actions often betray their words. When I realized the truth about my coworker, I made a choice. I stopped engaging in their conversations about others' mistakes. I refused to participate in their subtle put-downs and redirected my energy toward fostering a positive environment. Marcus Aurelius wisely said, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." By choosing not to mirror their behavior, I reclaimed my peace and integrity. If you're dealing with someone who takes pleasure in others' pain, protect your well-being. Distance yourself from their negativity and surround yourself with people who uplift rather than tear down. Stoicism reminds us that our worth isn't defined by others' actions, it's defined by how we respond to them. Seek relationships that celebrate your growth and success, and don't allow anyone to chip away at your confidence. Ultimately, true joy comes not from witnessing others' failures, but from shared successes, mutual respect, and kindness. Remember, your light shines brighter when you rise above the shadows of others' insecurities. 8. Isolation as a weapon. Isolation is one of the most powerful tools in the arsenal of a malicious person. By severing your connections to loved ones, friends, or support systems, they strip away your emotional strength and make you easier to control. This tactic often begins subtly, innocent-sounding remarks or concerned observations that sow doubt about the people closest to you. Before you know it, you may find yourself feeling isolated and dependent on the very person orchestrating your loneliness. Have you ever noticed someone trying to drive a wedge between you and those who care about you? If so, you've encountered this insidious weapon. I remember a friend who, at first, seemed incredibly supportive. They would point out flaws in my other relationships, always framing it as concern. "Your best friend doesn't treat you as well as they should," they'd say. Or, "Do you ever feel like your family doesn't really understand you?" At first, I brushed these comments aside, but over time, they planted seeds of doubt. I started questioning the motives of the people I'd trusted for years. What I didn't realize was that their comments weren't meant to help me. They were meant to isolate me. The more I leaned into their advice, the more I distanced myself from my true support system. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Humans are born to cooperate. Our strength lies in unity." Malicious individuals understand this all too well. They know that isolating you weakens you, making you more reliant on them and their influence. This isolation isn't just emotional, it's a calculated strategy to strip away your resilience and independence. How can you recognize this tactic? Look for patterns. Does someone consistently question the intentions of the people closest to you? Do they try to position themselves as the only person who truly understands or supports you? These behaviors are red flags, especially if they're leading to feelings of loneliness or detachment. When I realized what was happening, I knew I had to reclaim my connections. It wasn't easy. I'd allowed this person's words to shape my perceptions. But Stoicism reminded me of an important truth. We are part of a larger community, and authentic relationships are where our true power lies. I reached out to the people I'd drifted from, apologized for the distance, and explained what had happened. Rebuilding those bonds was one of the most empowering things I've ever done. If you're feeling isolated because of someone's influence, pause and reflect. Ask yourself, are they helping you strengthen your connections, or are they quietly cutting them away? A true friend or partner will encourage unity, not division. They will celebrate your other relationships and support the people who love you. Remember, your strength comes from connection, from the shared joys, sorrows, and support of those who genuinely care for you. Don't let anyone take that away. As Marcus Aurelius reminds us, unity is the foundation of resilience. Protect your bonds, nurture your community, and recognize that true power lies in standing together, not apart. 9. Jealousy in disguise. Jealousy is a toxic emotion, but it becomes far more insidious when disguised as concern, helpful advice, or even praise. Unlike overt envy, this hidden form is subtle and manipulative, chipping away at your confidence under the pretense of caring. Have you ever received a compliment that didn't quite feel right? Something like, "That's great, but you could have done even better." It's a backhanded remark designed not to uplift, but to sow doubt. If this sounds familiar, you've likely encountered jealousy cloaked in goodwill. I experienced this with a friend who seemed genuinely invested in my success. At least, that's what I thought. After completing a challenging project, I shared my excitement with them. Their response? "That's amazing. But next time, maybe aim higher. I know you're capable of so much more." On the surface, it sounded supportive, but something in their tone felt off. Over time, I noticed a pattern. Their feedback always carried a subtle critique. It was never outright negative, but left me questioning if my achievements were ever good enough. Their advice wasn't about helping me grow, it was about keeping me from feeling confident in my success. Seneca, the Stoic philosopher, said, "Envy is the ulcer of the soul." Those consumed by envy struggle to celebrate others' light because it highlights their own insecurities. Instead of addressing their feelings, they try to dim the brightness of others through veiled criticism or comparisons. This isn't about your shortcomings, it's about their inability to confront their own. How can you spot jealousy in disguise? Listen carefully to what they say and how they say it. Do their compliments feel genuine, or do they carry an undercurrent of critique? Do they compare your successes to others, subtly downplaying your achievements? Their words often leave you feeling not quite enough. When I realized my friend's jealousy, I had to make a choice: allow their comments to undermine my confidence, or set boundaries to protect my peace. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. I chose to surround myself with people who genuinely celebrated my success, who encouraged me to grow without making me question my worth. That decision was transformative. It reminded me that true support feels empowering, not diminishing. If you're dealing with someone whose envy is disguised as concern, trust your instincts. Their words may seem harmless, but if they consistently leave you feeling unsure of yourself, it's time to reevaluate the relationship. Stoicism teaches us to focus on what we can control: our reactions, our values, and the people we allow into our inner circle. Remember, your achievements are worth celebrating, no matter how big or small. Don't let anyone's jealousy cast a shadow over your light. Surround yourself with those who inspire you to shine even brighter, and never dim yourself to make others feel comfortable. As Seneca said, envy is their burden, not yours to carry. Keep striving, keep growing, and let your success speak for itself. 10. The unrepentant heart. One of the clearest signs of a malicious individual is their refusal to acknowledge their mistakes. They live with an unrepentant heart, clinging to destructive habits, justifying their actions with excuses, and avoiding accountability at all costs. Instead of self-reflection or change, they double down, blaming others or dismissing their behavior as someone else's problem. Have you ever tried to have an honest conversation with someone, only to be met with deflection or accusations that you're the one overreacting? That's the hallmark of an unrepentant heart. I once worked with someone who could never admit fault. Every time their actions caused harm, be it missing deadlines or upsetting colleagues, they had an excuse. "I was under too much stress," they'd say, or "You're too sensitive." When others gently pointed out how their behavior affected the team, they dismissed it with, "Well, I'm not the only one making mistakes." Not once did they apologize or take steps to improve. Marcus Aurelius urged us to focus on self-improvement, writing, "Do not waste time arguing about what a good person should be. Be one." Stoicism values humility, growth, and the courage to confront our flaws. Those with unrepentant hearts see self-reflection as weakness. Instead of using their mistakes as opportunities for growth, they cling to stubbornness, refusing to change or acknowledge the harm they cause. How do you handle someone like this? First, recognize the pattern. Do they ever apologize, or do they deflect, blame, or justify their actions? Do they show any willingness to grow, or do they consistently repeat the same harmful behaviors? Once you've identified this, set boundaries. When I realized the extent of my colleagues' unwillingness to change, I stopped wasting energy trying to fix the situation. Instead, I focused on what I could control: my reactions and my environment. As Epictetus said, it is not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. I limited my interactions with them, kept my expectations realistic, and refused to let their behavior derail my peace. If you're dealing with someone who refuses to take responsibility, remember this: you cannot force growth on anyone. Growth is a personal choice, one that not everyone is willing to make. Focus on your own path. Surround yourself with people who strive to be better, who value accountability and integrity. Stoicism teaches us that we can't control others, but we can control how we respond to them. Choose peace over frustration. Let go of those who refuse to grow, and invest your energy in those who uplift you. And most importantly, lead by example, because being a person of integrity is the best antidote to those who lack it. Dear fellow Stoics, we've just journeyed through some of the most profound insights into human behavior. 10 warning signs of malicious individuals, and how to guard ourselves using timeless Stoic principles. Along the way, we've uncovered how manipulation erodes confidence, how charm can conceal darker motives, and how envy, lies, or a lack of empathy can undermine our peace. We've explored the dangers of control, blame games, isolation, and the refusal to grow, all while grounding ourselves in the clarity and strength that Stoicism offers. But now let's pause for a moment and reflect. What ties all of this together? It's the realization that we hold the power to protect our inner peace. Toxic individuals can only disrupt us if we let them. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. Stoicism doesn't ask us to withdraw from the world, nor does it teach us to harden our hearts. Instead, it encourages us to engage wisely, to recognize harm, set boundaries, and respond with integrity. It's about mastering our own minds, standing firm in our values, and refusing to let negativity take root within us. So as you move forward, remember this: you don't need to confront every malicious person you encounter. You don't need to fix them or seek their approval. What you need is to stay anchored in your truth. Surround yourself with those who uplift you, and let go of what you cannot control. That is the essence of freedom. Thank you for walking this path with me today. If you found these insights valuable, take a moment to share your thoughts below. How have you used Stoic principles to navigate challenging relationships? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and join our community of thoughtful, resilient Stoics. Stay strong, stay serene, and as Marcus Aurelius reminds us, choose not to be harmed, and you won't feel harmed. Until next time, keep shining your light in a world that needs your clarity and strength.